What does world-class real estate look like to you?
You've got to have the customer focus.
It looks consistent.
Understanding the role that you play, but also understanding your own business.
I think estate agency is a really easy job made difficult by the people who work in it.
When you've got clients that you've worked with before and they are proactively and actually going out there telling people how good you are, being your advocators, bringing you more business recommendations.
Fundamentally starts with relationships.
Thank you to Iceberg Digital for sponsoring the podcast and making all this possible.
Hello and welcome to another episode of World Class Real Estate Podcast. I am in holiday mode because I'm getting picked up to go on holiday in 3 hours, but such is my dedication to this podcast. Here we are recording to make sure that these episodes are going out whilst I'm away. How are you, mate?
Never missed a week, have you? Never missed a week from day one. How many episodes are we up to now? You just had you were logged in, weren't you? It's got to be.
I was logged in, but I was also on my phone. I think we're over 350 now.
That is the definition of consistency. You know, if we're talking about estate agency, we're talking about consistency, just militantly showing up. That's over 350 weeks of showing up, right? That becomes a proper habit.
Yeah, I reckon this is episode 360 there or thereabouts. So yeah, like you said, it is habitual. And my wife said to me this morning when I was walking out the door at 7:30 to come in there, they're all like just getting ready to go on holiday, and she's like, "Why are you doing a podcast today?" I was like, "Just habit, I suppose."
Yeah. I sort of found myself a little bit out of sync on the habits at the moment, actually. Some things I'm really strong on the habits and some things I'm not so strong on the habits. But since the whole kind of avocado IAD thing changed, I kind of feel a little bit I haven't quite found my feet yet in terms of structure. Some days are like a 12-hour day and it's just crazy. And then some days I'm kind of not twiddling my thumbs because I'll always find something to do, but I'm kind of not used to going in and having a clear diary. So I'm still finding my feet a little bit on the habits at the moment. In fact, a time hop just popped up. This time last year, we were going to Disneyland, talking to holiday mode. We did the big 30-day trip in the US, and it would have been this period of time that we were out there. We went the end of July, so I was just flicking back at some of those memories, thinking, you know, what a great trip, and need to get something else booked in for an adventure. I think the itch is there.
Yeah, this holiday we've been looking forward to. We booked it almost a year ago, I think. So the kids, because we're going away with the cousins as well. So the kids have been really excited. Dev's been really excited. And I think it is important to have something in the diary like that you look forward to. But one of the things that I've done, I think, better this year than I have previously is I feel like I'm sprinting into holiday. So I'm in the office now. I'm just going to finish off literally just a couple of things just to give the team, because I've still been listening and negotiating right up until basically I'll be leaving. I imagine there may be one sale that might be negotiated on the way to the airport. That's not because the team can't do it in my absence, but if I've started it, I want to finish it. And actually, I want to go away having nailed, a big sale before I go. So I've got 2 offers to negotiate when we've finished on here. And like I say, it might flow over into the taxi. It won't flow over to me being away, but it might flow over into the taxi. But I think that's really important. That's one of the things I said to Rachel last night. I've worked really hard in the last week to make sure that when I go away, I can be like, right, I know I've done everything I can. And I think that there is, probably a sense of satisfaction in that.
But you can see the love that you've got for it. Like, you can see it when you're talking about, I'm going to negotiate these 2 big files. Like, you can see the love you've got for it. And I think that's what's great about agency is, yeah, we can go on holiday and we can enjoy it. But at the same time, I was talking about US last year, and we talk about self-employed, and we talk about the new model of estate agency. Why can't people be negotiating deals on sun lounges abroad? Like, why not? That's absolutely fine to do. So I think that in itself is quite cool and quite exciting to see. We're going to talk stats.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk stats for a little bit as well, aren't we, today? Which I'm looking forward to talking about.
Yeah, we've done these episodes from time to time where we just look at the state of the market, compare it to last year, look at year to date figures, and just try and get a bit of an assessment about the national market. Because even if you look at Zoopla versus Rightmove, the headlines that come out are so different. So it's sometimes really difficult to know exactly where you should stand on the market and the local market. We always say, take the stats, apply it to your area, and become that voice of reason, because with any data, it can be manipulated. But I think it's always interesting to pull up the data and see, right, what do the numbers actually tell us, rather than, Rightmove or Zoopla or Nationwide or Halifax putting their own slant on it.
Well, this is statistics that it doesn't cover Wales and it doesn't cover Scotland. So this is.
I know you think that life stops at Birmingham, but are we talking like the whole of the country?
Yeah, we're talking England. Yeah, we're fully England. But yeah, we don't have Scotland, Wales, or Ireland, obviously, as well. So this is, when I say UK, I might say it by habit, but what I mean is England, including, north of the wall, as it were, as well. North of the M25.
You're gonna upset some people if you say, the main bit and those Welsh and.
I'm fully ingrained now. I was up in Snowdon for 2 days. I drove via Chester on the way home because I needed a charger, and there's no chargers around Snowdon. So I'm fully part of the north now. I even looked at buying a house in Snowdon. I enjoyed it that much. So yeah, I found a house that was for sale for a 2-bed end terrace at the foot of Snowdon. The back garden was Snowdon. It was incredible. 160 grand. I seriously considered it. Don't tell anyone.
Hey, mate, you get a lot for your money up here.
Yeah, loved it. Right, so interesting statistics. So what I'm going to do is I've just pulled the data that's same time last year versus this year. So up to 4th of August at the point of recording, the 1st of January. So 1st of January last year to the 4th of August 2025, interestingly, 1.36 million. 1.036 million listed, so just over 1 million listings. And it feels like a lot, but it's basically the same this year. It's 1.057, so not drastic difference in terms of actual listings. What's that? That's 20 odd thousand more, 22,000 more this year.
2%.
I don't have the percentages, but I'm going to say yes. Yeah,
that sounds like it.
Yeah, boy maths done on live.
What's 2% more listings this year?
Yeah, if we say it confidently, everyone will believe us. So that's the listings, more or less the same, right? It's slightly up. But what's quite interesting is this time last year, sold subject to contract percentage was just shy of 64%, 63.89% in England. That resulted last year in 662,000 sales, basically agreed, not completed but agreed. And when you compare that to this year, 59.9%. So the ratio, and I think we probably all agree, is down by like 4%. But because the listings are up slightly, we're still down on sales agreed, 633 this year versus 662 last year. So we're up on listings, but we're slightly down on sales. But the key statistic there for anyone to take away is that 4% down on sales agreed, which is buyer activity and commitment to the price is what I would say. In terms of exchanged data, last year it was basically 55% exchange ratio, and this year it's 53%. So call it 2%. Yeah, 2%.
And that will be because those sales. So if sales agreed are down by 4, you would expect exchanges to be down by less because of the time lag. That exchange figure is probably going to go. That you would expect to end at about 3, if not 4%, to match the sales agreement.
Yeah, I think so. And interestingly, the withdrawns of last year, and we were talking of withdrawns on a recent episode and where the gold sits in the withdrawns. This still scares the life out of me to read this stat out, but last year 45% withdrawn. So there were 418,000 properties withdrawn from the market. Now that means they've come off with another agent. It doesn't mean they've come away from the market. They could have gone back on with another agent, but just they've served notice or withdrawn from the market. I mean, think what's the number? I got to do the fees on it just because that's the wow factor for me. Let me just do the fee.
Think, when you look at that, when I heard you say that stat, then I'm like, Jesus, that is a big number. So that means that virtually half of estate agents are wasting their time listing these houses.
I've done it on 3.5K just as a sort of as an average, because obviously it's countrywide. I mean, it might the average fee might be less than that or more. I don't know, but I've done it as 3.5. I don't know what that number is. It's big. It's like 1.4 billion.
1.4 billion, that is, isn't it? Yeah.
Might even be more than that. No, it must be
1,464 million.
Yeah. It's a lot of pipeline. It's a lot of pipeline withdrawn. So if there's anything you take from this, I mean, the percentage is 2, 4, 3% here or there. You know, if you can retain your stock, you've got to be winning the day, because that is just, and that work we've done for free. Or actually, it's cost us. It's worse than free. It's done for a minus, isn't it? Because you've put all of the time and energy into that, and it's come off the market with you as the agent, and you've earned nothing from it, typically speaking.
Do you know, I think there's two blame things here. Estate agent clearly to blame. Client also to blame. And I don't know if you have heard say this, or it's just some people in the industry. We're not a public service. We run businesses. And I think estate agents should remember that. And I think clients, need to be reminded of it from time to time. I know that there's certain things that we can do in the community, goodwill and all that sort of thing. But sometimes I think there's an expectation on estate agents to work for free. And I'm not into that. Got an email the other day, and I'm thinking about buying a plot of land off my dad. Will you come out and value it for me? Not if you're not going to pay me, I won't. Like, why? Like, why would I? Could I do it in 10 minutes? Absolutely. Will I do it for free? Absolutely not.
It's never 10 minutes though, is it? That's the thing. When you do something for free, it's never 10 minutes. It's always longer. Whenever you do someone a favor, they always want more time. But I also think there's value in the energy. Like you're talking about today, you're doing a podcast. You've got 2 deals to negotiate, and then you've got to get in a taxi and go on holiday. No one appreciates that. The fact that that's what you're doing this morning, on holiday mode, that shows your commitment, A, to the podcast, and B, to your clients. Because, everyone else, you think of Home Alone, where they're all getting ready for the holiday and they're all running around like craziness. You're old Macaulay Culkin up in the loft negotiating. You might get left behind, mate.
Yeah, if I do, it's a good chance. Yeah. Make sure I might be tempted to go on holiday with that one, actually.
Well, here's the other thing to it, Mark, is that was last year's stats. It's gone up this year. So
what?
Yeah, it's 46.91. So basically 47% are coming off market. So it's not going down, it's going up. The one thing that is going down is the fall through rate. So there's a bit of positivity in that. Fall through rate sat at 22.19 this year. Last year it was just over 23. So that I've actively seen drop over the last 3 years in most regions as well. Not every estate agent, but the good ones seem to be really keeping that going.
I think a lot of agents are getting onto more upfront information, aren't they? I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
We do it, and we went to see Michelle Gallagher last week. Spent a bit of time in her office, which was absolutely amazing. What a fabulous team that they've got over there, as you would expect from the 2-time EA Masters winners, of course. But Georgina and I went up there just to try and get a little bit of processes and that sort of thing. They were very generous with the time, Michelle and John, and they're getting into more upfront information. We had a long conversation between the 4 of us, probably an hour, talking about upfront information, upfront surveys, how we can do this. So the government putting out information about like buyer information packs and that sort of thing, that's got to be one of the reasons for less property sales falling through, because if you speak to buyers about it, they absolutely love it. And why would you not?
Yeah. And I think it's something that should be implemented. It was obviously spoken about, I don't know how many prime ministers ago now, like last week when we had
just don't cock it up, please.
Just do it and do it properly. We cocked it up, didn't we, with HIPS? Or I say we, I include everyone in it, but HIPS was a bit of a mess, but the theory was right. the theory was right,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be a money-making exercise. It should be an information-gathering exercise. It should be something to speed up the process of getting properties exchanged. That's what we should be helping people with. Give buyers more information, and on the back end, already have 2 steps along the way.
I also think on that, so the massive withdrawal figure that we've just talked about, a big fall through figure. These are bits of income that are escaping our industry and therefore escaping us as professionals within the industry. I actually think sometimes getting the upfront information and tasking clients with work to do in that initial process is a good thing, because you're almost testing how committed they are to purchasing. Because a lot of those withdrawals will have been, as I talked before, about people just thinking it's a public service. Oh, I'll just try and sell my house, but like, life is tough. Nothing worth having comes easy. Moving house is not easy. And I think everyone that goes into it should be well aware of that. So you're going to have to make sacrifices in terms of time and in terms of money. And if you do that right from the outset, then you've probably got a better chance of being successful. But if you've got a client that says, nah, I just want to try it, I want to go on at this price, I'm not willing to do the forms that you need to do and all of that. Now I've learned, just walk away. I walked away from a £1.4 million listing the other day because they didn't want to pay the fee, and their words were, "We're not that bothered about selling. We'll stick it on the market for a couple of months, and then if it's not sold, we'll take it off while we go away for a couple of months." I'm like, "All right, see you later."
You just don't need that, do you? It's just not. It's not the spike of motivation that you want, and I respect that. I think we're moving into that. I think our generation really sort of understand that. We understand what our time is worth and what the value is. We're talking about having things in the diary to look forward to and having systematic habits that we don't miss. And I think we're trying to be elite performance. I think that's what we're striving for in this generation, and we're trying to get estate agency to that as well. And some of these stats are moving in the right direction. Some of them are market related that there's an element we can't do too much about, but then some of them are things that we can do stuff about. And I think that withdrawn statistic that we talk about there, I think if more agents were like you that went back to that client and said, no, you come back to the market when you're ready to sell, because we're putting a lot of time, energy into it, and you will be as well for the client. You're going to have to tidy up for viewings. You're going to have to emotionally commit to offers at some point. And also, we'd like to think that a buyer's going to fall in love with that property. And if you just willy-nilly pull that, from under their feet, that's not fair on them as well, especially if they spent money. So I think we could work as an industry to try and reduce that 47% withdrawn just by having better conversations with the public and removing market share as a key metric, from our radar.
Yeah, absolutely. If that just drops by 10%, what did we say it was? 1,000 million? So that's 100 million.
1.4 billion pounds of commission.
Yeah. So that's even if you just drop it by 10%, it would have a massive difference. And that's what I would challenge everyone. So this is going to be going out towards the end of August. Hopefully you've already listened to the episodes and you're regularly keeping in contact with those clients, getting the stock in a good shape for September. But also, don't go through September and October listing shit, because that you could contribute to that 1.4 billion pounds worth of lost income if you are chasing market share rather than finding the clients who are motivated and really want to move. Because that withdrawn figures just absolutely.
I mean, to put it into perspective as well from a ratio, because we're talking about the pounds, we said there's in that period of time 1 million listed. In that same period of time, 500, and let me go into this year actually. Let me talk about this year rather than last year because it's more relevant. So, just over 1 million listed, nearly, just over 1 million listed, getting towards, if we rounded it up, we'd say 1.1. And then in terms of exchange business, 454,000, withdrawn 400. So we're kind of exchanging.
Like 50-50.
It's not far off 50-50, which means really the scary part is whatever your completion average fee is, just half it. because that's probably what it actually is. That's the
absolutely.
scary part of looking at it, right? The other statistic here that is wild when you actually get this is, I'm using 20EA data, which shout out to those guys because they do produce the best data in my view. When you look at the top, they sort of rank it on listing, but when you look at the top agents, this is England wide, it then has the average time to sell at the end is the last column. And last year, the average time to sell, I think it was 76 days to go from on a portal to sold subject to contract. This year, it's 75 days. So one day better, which is sort of surprising in its own right. But the top agent this year, 54 days. There's another agent in the top 6, 122 days. Another one, 115 days. Second placed agent, 50 days. Bottom, which is 14th, the 14th highest listing agent in the country, 200 days. Let me just check. They're not a new builder. No, they're a London agent. That is scary as hell to think that as a seller, you could go with an agent that gets your house under offer on an average across 8 months of 50 days or 200.
I mean, that is just insane in terms of different business models, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I do love the fact that, when you own your own business, you can design it and do whatever you want with it. But those are the stats that probably clients should become aware of.
Mm. There was I don't know if you saw it. There was an article about Connell's profit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it took a hit, didn't it?
It took a massive hit. And I read some of the comments where people were kind of saying, well, it's just market, it's volume, it's kind of almost within the article is a suggestion that is kind of market led a little bit. But we spoke about the averages, and I just, while we were kind of chatting here, I just thought it was interesting to see, because I can see actively where Connells have gone in market share and stuff. But last year, if you were looking at it from a senior figure to say, is there anything we can change internally? Last year, they sold 62% of what they listed at this point, fall through ratio 25%, days to sell 80. That was last year's statistic. So sold subject to contract 62%. And this year, their sold subject to contract is 56%. Their withdrawns is 55%. And their fall throughs is 25. Average times to sell is 85. Yeah. So when you look at on a scale, because they're not in line with the averages, they've kind of significantly dropped on the averages. That's kind of where you've got to look at that from a profit point of view and say there's stuff internally that can be done.
If you're an estate agent listening to this, I want you to think about something for a second. Are you and your team busy, or are you actually being productive? Because most agencies right now are drowning in admin, juggling disconnected systems, chasing portal leads, and wondering why profits aren't where they really should be. Iceberg Digital have taken a completely different approach. Instead of selling another CRM, they've built what they call an AI operating system for estate agents, combining prospecting, marketing, CRM, compliance, even websites into one connected ecosystem. The goal? To increase your revenue per employee, because the agencies that win over the next few years won't be the ones working harder, they'll be the ones working smarter, with systems that actually do the heavy lifting. If you want to future-proof your agency instead of just surviving the next market shift, go and book a demo at icebergdigital.co.uk. That's icebergdigital.co.uk.
So yeah, on the Connell stats, it's live reporting, and also it's public information. So if you're just looking, let's say me and you ran Connells and we're looking at it to say, right, can we see some problematic changes? I know there was the whole, PR story of last year as well, but is there stuff that we can do within the teams? I think you look at the sold subject to contract ratio, you look at your withdrawns that we just spoken about and days to sell potentially, and is there a drastic problem on fall throughs? Last year, they were converting 62% of what they sold, slightly under average nationally, at 64%, so 2% under average. They're exchanging 48%, which is 6% under average. and fall through ratio, more or less in line. Withdrawn 6% over. So as a big corporate giant, they're a couple of percent worse than the national average, which is probably not the end of the world for them last year. In terms of the volume that they operate from. Whereas when you look at it this year, sold subject to contract 57%, so they are 3% below average there. But that's a big swing for them. It's a 5% swing on what they're listing. Just see if they listed the same actually. 13,500 last year, 12,500 this year. So 1,000 difference on listings. So that's probably a bit of a hit as well, to be fair.
Quite a big chunk in it, that.
Yeah. When we're talking about the fact that there's only 22,000 nationally listed more, they've listed 1,000 less. So that's probably the basis of a problem. Exchanged 45%, which is 8% below average. So that's got worse. And withdrawns 55%. That's 9% below average, or actually above average if you look at it that way. Worse than average, which is a big problem, I would say, as well.
That's a big.
It's taking them an extra week, 5 days, 5 working days longer to get a property under offer. So you can quickly look at sort of statistics on what they reported on their profit and go, that's how much that swings. I can't remember what it was. It was like 20-30 million profit swing. They made like 2 million, whereas before they'd made like 30 odd million. It was something like that anyway. It's quite a big wow factor difference, but it shows those percentages, 1-2% here or there.
When you're big, when you're as big as they are, then those little percentages can make a big difference, can't they? That's interesting. I wonder how much all of the bad PR has played into that, in particular, because that would stop you getting instructions, I would imagine.
I would think as well, it plays into the excuses internally in the team.
Yeah,
I think it gives a reason. Why did you lose it? Oh, they heard the story. Whereas before it's, why did you lose it? Oh, it's fee. Now it's like, it was fee and the story. It's kind of just it's a natural thing. You've got to ram that out of the culture and build success, because you can see on the table there that they're dropping in their market share quite significantly. They were too.
It's interesting because it's dead easy to blame the market, isn't it? But actually, what those stats probably indicate is that the market is fairly similar to last year's. Few little discrepancies, like we said, we've been shocked at the withdrawal rate. I think that's something as an industry we can do better. But the fact of the matter goes back to, doesn't matter what the market is, we've got to do business in it. We sell houses. We always say we sell houses in any market. So make the market, by creating the activity, by, you said about, changing the conversations internally at, Connells, for example. Make sure that your team are having those right conversations, that there is a positivity within the team, because actually, we could talk about the market all day long, but can't change it. Don't spend your life reading Property Industry Eye and all the negative about profit warnings and all of that. Spend your energy motivating your team, having positive conversations with motivated vendors to get stuff sold, because that's where you can make a big difference. And now as we come to the end of the summer and running into September and October, there's going to be opportunities out there, massive opportunities to make a big difference.
And I think you can get above average. That's got to be your target. Is, are you above average? If you're doing 6 out of 10 listings go under offer, and that's above average. If you can get to 6.5 listings that you take on out of 10 go under offer, you're significantly above average, and then it gives you a really powerful message to take into the living room. And that's a nice benchmark to kind of work from. But yeah, the market, I mean, 6 out of 10 go under offer. It's not the end of the world. We've seen a lot worse, haven't we? We've seen it.
Absolutely.
We've seen it in the 45, 46%, sort of percent previously, that's a tough market then. I don't
think there's average days to sell. That being 1 day shorter than last year, I think that might surprise some people. So that's that's quite a positive to pull out of all of that as well. Actually, we're selling houses 1 day quicker than we were last year. Good. If you're looking for a good story to tell people, go and pick that one, because as we said right at the start, with any data you can pick what you want to report on, you can pick what you want to talk about. So if it was me now, I'd be saying, well, actually the market isn't fantastic, it's quite price sensitive, you have to be really realistic. Good news is, on average, houses are selling a day quicker than they were last year. So
yeah, and the fall through ratio is improving. So if it gets in the pipeline, there's a better chance that it stays in, it completes. but the withdrawn ratio is increasing. So if you can't get it under offer, if you don't get the pricing right, we know this. If you don't get the marketing right, it doesn't hit the pipeline, there's a good chance it's coming off market. So that's a key part of it, is get that part of it right from the off, and then you've got a good chance of completing on that property and getting paid.
Yeah, let's take this episode as one where you can maybe try and find some holes to plug if you are losing, all of that stock to withdrawn. Don't take it on. Don't waste your money and your time, or make sure that you're keeping in contact with them, because that's the reason people will leave if you're just not ringing them and there's nothing going on. So, yeah. Hopefully that's been a useful episode, just looking at that, and can give you that little shot in the arm to go through, have a busy, strong end to the summer and running into September, October. As you know, we do this because we love the industry, want to see it improve and get better. Please share the episode out on social or share it with colleagues. I'm Mark Worrall. Here's Ian Macbeth. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.